Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to the stream. Alright, so a couple nights ago on the stream, we got a couple things done. One of the last things we did, which is right here on screen, is we got rid of libpng and replaced it with using the SDB library and SDB image in particular. So that went really well, and I'm quite happy with that. Now, since Monday night, I actually started looking at, and we touched on this on stream last time, but I started looking into using what's it called, AppVeyor. So AppVeyor is this. It's something that you can hook into GitHub, and basically it allows you to like set up continuous integration for your projects. And so I started messing around with that, and I got something set up, which was pretty cool. I'm not quite done with it, but I have it able to build Vectrexy correctly for Windows, because AppVeyor is basically focused on Windows. And so it's able to like clone my repo and use VC package. It actually includes VC package, so use it to download the dependencies and build everything and link everything. I even wrote some stuff to like package it all up, well, including ROMs and overlay. So the last few things I want to look at is I need to kind of think about how to like version things, you know, like do I want to have like a kind of pre-release version number thing or do I just want to like for now have it just create a version per commit where I use the commit hash somewhere in there. I just need to kind of figure that out so that I can track these binary versions. And apart from that, yeah, the other thing too is kind of like starting to think about presentation. And what I mean is, like at the moment, if you run the emulator, let's say, do I have like a, like let's say I think I did it here. Yeah, I have like a second clone here. Like if I do a git clean, okay, so this is a clean version, right? And let's say we go into the build here. I'm not cat, okay, type. Let's say we try and actually build a clean version, and I kind of want to share what I mean. So, okay, so I need to do this type of thing here. I just need to change my path. I think that's right. No, I got it wrong. Data code active, that's it. Okay, so I'm just going to generate here a clean build, and this is pretty much what AppVeyor is going to do. So like, by the way, if you have like an open source project and you're looking to get something that, builds every time you create a branch or, you push something or somebody creates a pull request, totally look into AppVeyor for Windows. It's this here, AppVeyor. So yeah, this is really well done, and it's free for open source, which is really nice. Configuring it is nice. You kind of have different options. You can create like a YAML file in your project and define everything there, or you can just do everything on the website and not touch your code at all, which is what I'm doing. Both have their pluses and minuses, so it's interesting. All right, so let's say we open this version. Actually, you know what? We don't really need to do this. I have another idea, so let me just, give me a second. Okay. So like right now, let's say we get a zip of, like this is an example of a build that I create, and we just extract it, let's say. And this would be like the user experience right now, right? Somebody would download this and would just run the executable. And why is, yeah, and then it would open up like this. So, you know, the first thing you see is, you know, this window has some size. I forget how I do it. I think it's basically a percentage of your screen, and it opens on your primary monitor, and that's fine. But then you have like this big SDL window in your face. You know, and that's not super cool. It's fine for development, but I would like, you know, for this maybe to either be minimized or maybe not even visible. Like I'm thinking one thing I'd like to explore is maybe making a build without this menu, or making this menu something that can be shown if you pass an option, you know, something like that. And then while we develop, we say like, oh, show debug menu or something. So there's that, or actually maybe that I kind of had a browser open on this before. I was sort of quickly looking at how can you use ImGui to maybe embed a menu. And I'm not sure that that's the way it's supposed to work. I think more it's like you're supposed to use ImGui to create the window and then create a sub window that has, let's say, the OpenGL context for your game, and then you can have like different toolbars and stuff. I think that's how it's supposed to work with ImGui. So I need to kind of explore those options. But yeah, it's basically about just getting this initial user experience to be decent. But I mean, and another thing too is like, it would be cool if we did have a menu bar, because then you'd be able to say file open ROM. Because right now you have to know that your Control-0 has to be used to go and like look for ROMs. And that's kind of sucky, right? So you have to know that. The other thing too is that's not clear is that you can hook up, you know, you can connect a controller and start using it. So I'd like to somehow, you know, communicate that. I'm not quite sure yet how. So these are sort of things I'd like to tackle. So yeah, that's sort of where I'm at right now. Just want to kind of remind myself, what am I doing for sizing the window? Okay, I think I don't do a percentage or anything. I just have a default window width of 600, and then the height is calculated as it's calculated from the width by, you know, respecting this whatever 4:3 ratio, which actually in fact doesn't really make that much sense. But anyway, whatever. And it looks fine. See here, it's not actually respecting it because I have an options file. But yeah. So yeah, that's it. So let me like take a look a little bit at SDL and see if not SDL, but ImGui, and see if there's like something we can do for perhaps like not even showing the window. Set window visible. I wonder if this has been done. Don't call begin. It's entirely up to the user with maximum flexibility already. But it wouldn't be right. It would be paying all the cost of processing widgets and vertex buffers and then dropping that output. That's true. I guess part of the problem is that we're kind of hiding behind, where is it again? Is it inside the new frame? Because basically the harness for ImGui is right here. We have this function, which is, well, it's a function for an implementation of hooking up ImGui with SDL and GL3, and it's called new frame, and you give it the SDL window. And then after that, you do an ImGui render, which basically does this call here. And I think there's another thing that you need, actually. Where is it? Oh yes, and you need ImGui process events. And this process event is for like mouse capture and keyboard capture. So these are kind of like the hooks. But he's saying here, if you don't want to show a window, don't call begin. I think it's because there's this concept of like the default debug window, and we're not really specifying which window we want. Maybe that's what it is. Like all of these things that we're doing, like slider, float, and stuff, are we supposed to specify like a window for these? Begin main menu bar. Interesting. To a full screen menu bar. Oh, that's cool. Append to menu bar of current window. Okay, so there's these concepts of like a full screen menu bar and a current window one, and just the concept of a current window even. Oh, that's cool. You can even do modal dialogue and stuff. So flags for ImGui begin. So I don't think I have a call to this, do I? So maybe the idea is that you can create windows with ImGui begin. Like maybe I'm supposed to do something like, let's see, STL engine. If we do up here, begin, and you can give it a name. So let's just see here. Name test. And there's like some pointer to an open thing. What does it say here? Push window to the stack and start appending to it. See CPP for details. Return false when window is collapsed, so you can early out in your code. Ah, I see. Bool popen creates a widget on the upper right to close the window, which sets your bool to false. Oh, I see. Curious. If we just do this, what happens? I think I need to rethink the way I'm using ImGui in general. Like, I wonder what most applications do. Oh yeah, there we go. See, it says test now. So it's kind of like this concept of a window stack, right? Or like the current window. But the thing is that if you don't specify a window, that doesn't mean it goes away, like how he was saying. I suppose what it means is that we need some kind of management system for, like, a wrapper around our SDL stuff, which kind of sucks, to be honest. Because right now, like, what we've done is we've littered our code with these ImGui calls, right? I have some in GL render, I have some in screen. I mean, for the most part, that's where they are, in render and in screen. I was sure there would be a way to kind of say, disable the, disable it so that all the calls that we make are completely ignored, but it doesn't seem to be the case. These are all the widgets. Yeah, I don't quite understand. I guess I don't understand this comment, you know? So Okor Nut here, is this the person who actually, he's the one, I think, who created ImGui, this library. And so this person's saying, you know, it'd be cool to be able to hide windows and stuff. And he's saying, I don't understand, if you don't want to show a window, just don't call begin. But the thing is, if you don't call begin and you still call ImGui slider float and all that, you still end up, you know, displaying these widgets within this default debug window that gets created for you. So, you know, and even if you were creating windows and then creating widgets, not calling begin doesn't change the fact that those widgets appear, right? So, which is basically what I'm saying. I don't really understand how this helps. Like, if I wanted to make it optional to show all the current, ImGui calls, I'd have to basically, it seems to me like I'd have to have like, if show debug window, then do this, which sucks, right? Like I'd have to like kind of wrap all this. And I don't really want to wrap the ImGui's functionality. That just seems like a big waste of time. So there must be something I'm not getting, or maybe the way I'm using ImGui isn't the best way. Like maybe what I should be doing instead, yeah, that probably makes more sense, is like, I guess I'd have to expose a lot of these values that I'm, tweaking, and then have ImGui go through that and expose them like in a different place. Like have one centralized place where we do all the ImGui stuff, maybe. Hey, Cinecron, how's it going? What's wrong? Well, I'm trying to figure out like what's the right way to work with ImGui. Like so far I've been using it, just kind of like for debugging, which is fine, right? So, if I run, I have this window here with a whole bunch of stuff in it. And actually, I just let me just remove something I did here in the engine. I was just testing this ImGui begin end thing that creates like a current window, and then all ImGui calls, all the widget creation happens within the current window. But if you don't have any current window, it adds to this like default global window that it calls debug. Sorry, my eye. Here, see that it says debug here? And like what I'm wondering about is like, what if I didn't want to show this window at all? What if I just wanted to have like the debug window only show under a certain condition? And it seems like with the way it's done, I'd have to go to all the places where I currently add these things and, wrap this up in conditions. If show debug menu, then, create this widget. And I guess that makes sense. It's immediate mode GUI. I guess that's sort of the deal. But I'm just wondering what would be a good design for like, making this not a big mess of conditions all over the place, And what I'm thinking is maybe part of the solution here is having this extra layer of like values, I can add to maybe some kind of like, I don't know, config manager or debug manager or something, I don't know what, where we say, I'm adding effectively what you see here, but that's what I want to avoid there. And then have this one centralized place where we say, if this menu is currently enabled, go ahead and put these. But it doesn't seem like what the right way to use ImGui. Yeah, that's how you're supposed to work with ImGui, right? ImGui means immediate mode GUI. The idea is that every frame, you effectively rebuild what your UI is supposed to look like. So you call these, now, behind the scenes, it actually does a whole bunch of caching, and it's actually super efficient. But that's the whole idea. Like if I don't call this, let's say one frame, let's say every other frame or whatever, if at some point I decide to stop calling this, then it just will not render anymore. You know what I mean? And in fact, there are cases like that. Like you can see like, I don't know if I have to explain, like I don't know if you understand that that's what immediate mode GUIs are. Maybe I don't need to explain it, but like for example here, if I say thick base lines, when I click it, you'll see line with normal suddenly appears. If I unclick it, that disappears, And that's because when this checkbox is true, that activates a branch in the code where we also add this ImGui float here. Yeah, no, I know. I think that's kind of like the way to do it, but it seems like a bit annoying to have to do it that way, Yeah, it's open source, but I'm definitely not gonna modify it. You know, say I don't like, I depend on it as an external library, right? So I'm not gonna go in and touch it. I could, but it's not really the way I want to use it. I do want to respect the way it's meant to be used. I just think I need to think a little bit about how I want to do this. Like, I'm thinking about whether I want to, you know, right now render context is this simple structure that has right now only a vector of lines that I need to populate every frame. And I wonder if I should pass in the render context, even though it's not quite, but it's sort of related to rendering, whether or not we want to display that, or do I want to do something completely separate, perhaps something more global. Yeah, maybe. Let me see. Maybe something like this, and like this. So basically it's a global. I mean, honestly, I'm not a fan of this, but and I mean, I suppose I should be doing like, can I do this begin end of the same window and it'll actually work? I wonder. Okay, I don't actually need that right away. Let's just see if we. So the thing is, I have these everywhere. You know, like I have places here and places there, and it kind of sucks to have to like wrap all of these calls up. You know. Like, okay, let's say I did want to do it. I'll just explore what it would be like to have to forward things, right? Like if we just go here to ImGui slider float, and I won't actually copy everything, I'll just use variadic templates, let's say. So type name, how does it work again? It's I think it's like this. Is that how you do it? Okay. So you see now I lose all the like, because I'm using my own type, I only see like, I don't see exactly the args that it would normally accept, which kind of sucks. But it is a kind of straightforward wrapper. I'd have to wrap everything that I use though, which is really not that cool. But it would work. Because then, like, what I could do is I could do something like make some kind of enum class called window, and actually accept that as the first argument, you know. And here we could say like if, and then we can have like a set of flags to know whether they're enabled or not. And it'd be like if enabled window of window, then we do this. So this would be a way to kind of have like a global control, right? And then here the slider float becomes like this. I mean, the other alternative, of course, is to use macros, which may not be terrible because it would allow me to completely compile it out and see how it performs without it. That's another option. The only problem is macros. macros suffer from their own issues, right? Like for example, if there's any template parameters, that's gonna, well, I mean, it's workable, but something like why is this? Okay. And then this becomes more like this. Right. Macros are glorious. Yeah, I don't know. So like this would work, you know? And maybe I don't need to really put this here. Yeah, I can do like this. What is it again? It's how do you concatenate types again in macros? Or is it 2 times? Yeah. So one advantage to this, of course, is that we can basically call any ImGui function with this. Yeah. And we can control whether or not it's enabled. So let's just see what it would look like if we were to go ahead and wrap these calls here. Yeah, concatenating strings. Yeah. That's what I meant, sorry. So ostensibly, this should work the same way as before. We should be able to turn it on and off. Okay, so they've all disabled. Oh yeah, because it's false, exactly. So if we say there's only one value right now. Okay. Now the next thing I want to check here is if it is enabled, I think I can do this now where it will stringize the name that we pass in, so it'll be like debug. And this may not be super optimal though, so I just want to see what this looks like. Interesting. So just to be sure, let's say we were to put here, instead of just window, all right, like this. Okay, so there we go. So all the ones that we've currently wrapped end up in a separate window called debug test. So that's kind of neat. So let's go and address the ones in screen. I guess we don't really need ImGui anymore here. Okay, so if I've gotten them all, then that would mean that if we were to disable this, that we should no longer have a window. So let's see if that's the case. And it is indeed the case. I feel like I should just wrap all calls this way, although what if I don't have a window? Maybe ImGui call is not a good function. Maybe we want to say that it's for a window. And the reason why I'm thinking about this is that I'd like to have a way to just not even invoke ImGui at all. But maybe at the highest level I could just simply just check if we've enabled it or not. Okay, I guess I can worry about that later. So now we have a way. So let's say we do. For now, I'll just hook it up into my options system. Yeah. This is something I don't like about enum classes, is this whole casting in order to use it, the enum as an index. And I can remove the class and then I can just use it, but then I'm not forced to use window as a namespace. I guess I can just do my usual trick then. Okay, so if this works, oh yeah, I don't need this. So if this works, we should be able to just add an option to my options file for this. Okay, so now we have nothing. And if we go to our options file, if I write ImGui debug window, I don't know if this is going to work. I think I might be expecting the equals. I might have to put like equals true or something. Let's just see what happens. Or equals 1 maybe. Yeah. There we go. Now, of course, I should handle the case of equals 0 because that's not going to work. It's just going to, I'm just checking for the existence of the variable. So let's go fix that up. Okay, so that's 0, and pretty much any other value here should work. There we go. All right. That's pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with that because it means that, like, by default, let's say we go and grab that executable just to see here. And we delete the ini file. Now if you were to run it, then by default it looks like this. Okay, that's good. So I'll say conditionally invoke calls as well as group them into windows. Because, like, one of the interesting things here is that, you know, I haven't actually done it, but let's say we wanted to separate the, I mean, we could do this now. You know what, let me just commit this first. So now what this means is we could do something like this. We can go into our GUI header file here, and rather than say just debug, right, we could add here, you know, render and screen, let's say, right? And in GL render, we can replace all of these, you know, debugs here with instead render. And similarly in screen, like that. And now when we run it, we should have two windows, one that says render, one that says screen. Or, or not. It looks like I may have missed one. So why didn't this work? It's going to be difficult to debug because obviously macros. Oh, no, of course, because I need to enable them. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So let's say now we have debug. Let's say true and true for now, for those two. Okay, so there we go. So we have a render window and we have a screen window. And it looks like I still have a debug one because I missed these darken speed scales. So I'm going to go take a look at those, but you know, it's kind of cute, right? It's this weird behavior where like double clicking in the corner resizes, but it doesn't quite resize it. You can keep double clicking and it keeps resizing until it stops. There, now it stops. It's super strange. I don't know why it does that. It should really just resize to the maximal size that shows everything. Why does it keep growing? Anyway. Alright, so let me go take a look at these. This is darken speed scale. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know why. No, there's only one. So this should be render, let's say. So yeah, it would allow me to do this, but I'm actually not going to do it because there's no real point. I mean, having the debug one for now is fine. If it ever gets too big, then I'll consider doing something. But most likely, I'll just create like a hierarchical view within the debug window itself, rather than have separate windows. Because really, I just use this for tweaking values for debugging purposes. Cool. So the other thing I wanted to look at in a similar vein is this options file. Right now, you need to kind of like know exactly. I really coded this thing really quickly. The whole thing is this many lines of code, which is nice. It's simple. But it's not discoverable, right? So if you don't know the format, you don't know any of the strings, you have no way of knowing. So what I was thinking is, maybe what I should do is, if there is no options file, I should create one with the default values in them. And then this way you can go in and start tweaking it. And once it exists, I don't touch it anymore. Or I load it and then resave it with whatever values you may have set, kind of thing, which would allow it to expand by adding more values to it. Although the one thing I will lose is what I have now, which is the ability to kind of toggle and tweak values, you know? But yeah, let me at least move this into its own file and just mess around with it a bit. Alright, so I don't think I need that. iStream I think I do need though. I think I use it elsewhere in this file. Yeah. Okay. So we separated that. And now I can do a little bit of work in here. So let's just commit this because it's a nice simple change. Move options into its own CPP. So what I'd like to do here is, if we did not find one, let's create one and put all the default values in it. Now this is gonna be like, it's gonna look like a lot of copy paste, and that's fine. You know, for something simple and small, even just the fact that we have these, you know, hard-coded option names here that are types. Normally, if you want to make a more generic option system, you'd want to use strings and all kinds of stuff, but I'm really not interested in making it generic. It's really very specific, and I just want to make it work. And you know, if it grows unwieldy, then we can, you know, revisit making it more generic or trying to save some typing and stuff. So Right now I kind of like that it's simple. I forget if I have to like pass options to say that it's a text file and all that. I don't. We'll see. All right, so let's say this is the case. Then what we want to do is we would like to output for each one of these. That's basically what we see down here. Oh, that's it. I don't actually have the defaults here. That's true. Alright, so let me see if I can communicate those defaults. Like for example, for window X, I think I have it here. How do I do this? Yeah, I didn't think about this. Yeah, the whole point of using optional is not to have the default values in one place, but to be able to ask if we actually loaded this option, then use its value. Otherwise, you know, we can, at the point where we need it, we can say what the default value should be, which is kind of nice. It means you can have a default file or an empty file or a file that's missing values and everything works. I don't know. I'm starting to think I want to go and try and make something generic. I think it might actually be fun though, because we could use something like variant to help us with this. you know, I'll explore the option. Let's just see where we could go with this. So okay, so the idea would be to no longer have something like this, right? Instead, we'd have something more like so you'd add an option, you'd give it a name, and you'd give it a default value. Now, of course, we need to store these, and we'll only support certain types. So we'll do like, we'll use stood variant. And right now we know that we only really need to support two things, ints and floats. We technically could add bool, I guess. Oh no, we do have a bool. Yeah, ints, floats, and bools, so no, that makes sense. And what we want is, what do we want? We need like, do we want to map by name? Maybe. I guess I don't really need a default value. I could just say value. Let me see. Let me think. Yeah. So then actually we can just do, let's say, a map of I'll go with string for now, because maybe I couldn't do const char star, but just in case we want to format something, I'll copy it, so it will be safer. Options by name or something, or just options, whatever. Okay, so we'll need a way to get them. We need a way to load a file. We need a way to, oh yeah, and we need a way to retrieve our option. And the way we'll do that is, I could return the variant. Maybe I could just return the variant. Let's see. Okay, something like this. You know what, I'll just put it in here. Now the get should really be a Does this work yet in this compiler? Oh, cool. It does work. This is a C++ 17 feature. The ability to declare, like in a for loop, you can declare a scoped variable and then check the condition after the semicolon here. So it's kind of like the two parts. It's two parts of an if statement, kind of like the three parts of a for loop, just that there's no increment part. So if we did find the name, then we want to return its value. Otherwise, no? What's the problem? Oh yeah, it's a map. So we want to return is iter.second, I think it was. It's a pair, yeah. Now, otherwise, we have to do something. I guess we could like yeah, for now just assert, but okay, and then load options file, we can move that into the CPP file. Actually implement it there. Now obviously this will be somewhat similar to what we were doing, but not quite the same. This should be a pair, a reference to a pair. For each one, we want to do fout first, which is the name. Can I use the Let me see here. It's Does that work in this compiler? I hope so. Okay, and then this is the part where we need to do some special things for if it's an int, a float, or a bool. So this is where we need like a std visit, which I don't think I have. Okay, let's just do this for now. Say v, and we'll do const expr if, again, I hope this compiler supports this, or if const expr, and we say I'll need type traits so that I can say is same v t and int, and we'll say return std s to I of star v. Is that how it works? No, that's not quite right. It's not that I want. It's the variant has multiple types. Yeah, I'm gonna need to do some kind of visit. Yeah. No, I can't do it this way because it's a variant, right? And I won't know it's a runtime value, so I need to do the typical like visit thing with std variant. And by the way, hi Chopster. I don't think we've spoken before, but it's nice to have you here. I guess we could do get if for now. Keep it simple. So it may seem like it's all it adds more brain overhead, but actually it's really cool to be able to do this kind of thing. I mean, because otherwise, like, whenever you need to store, you know, different types, I mean, what do we reach for? We reach for unions, right? But then you got to store something that says what is the type in the union, and that's basically what variant is. You know, it's just safer because it won't allow you to do things you're not supposed to do because it knows what the types are that you're storing in there, and it's fairly efficient. Okay, so I think I can do, what is it? It's get if. How does this guy work? If auto, that's it. Yeah, well, that's it. You know, that's the same thing. But variant wraps all that up in a type-safe manner. So what does it get if? Oh, it's actually the other way around. It's not. It's more like an I to S that we need here, right? There's actually a two. You know what? I may be able to just get away with this. Yeah. And we'll say else if. It's a float. It does expose it though, right? It totally does. You know, I don't need to use this get if. That's just one way of doing it. But you can ask what it holds, and let's see here. You can get the index, not this one here, but you can get the index of what it's storing. Here, index. So that's your enum value right there, you know. Checks if a variant currently holds a given type. So you can say, do you hold an int right now? Are you holding a float? So you can ask it. So you basically have everything you would want that's exposed from an enum union pair. It really is just a wrapper around it with a bunch of convenience functions. So it's, you know, it's not that bad. Like in this case, it's kind of nice because I'm asking, do you have an int? And if so, give it to me. Like it returns it casted. So this value here will be of type int. And in this case, it'll be of type float, you know? Maybe I'll do true and false. I don't know. Let's see. Is there a std2? Maybe there is a std2 string for that. No, no bool. Okay. Let's try this. And of course, we should probably return a string. So this is a std variant int float bool reference. Oh, it doesn't know. What am I missing here? Oh, I guess it doesn't need to be a template. That's one thing. What is it doesn't like about this? Oh, do I need to pass it a pointer? Get if. Oh yeah, I do. All right. Oh, and that returns a pointer. All these pointers. Okay, so there we go. Huh. That's hilarious. See, this to me is a bug in the compiler. It's saying that these declarations hide the previous one. Oh no, I guess not a bug. I guess these are... I don't know. I know that... I always thought that these were scoped just to the body of the if. No, I guess this is true. In C++, yeah. Well, what if we don't put the else if? Then they're all separate ifs. It should be fine. In this case, since we're returning in each branch, it won't make any difference whether it's else if or not, and we get to keep the code this way. So yeah, let's do that. All right, so we have a way now to load option files and get their values using a string lookup. So let's go see if we can make use of it in this fashion, which means, of course, changing our code a little bit here. But that should be okay. So let's do this. Options. I'll just call it add. So we want to add basically all the ones we had in our header file here. So let's do this. And we need to add the defaults. What doesn't it like here? Oh, it needs to know the type we're adding, of course. And I guess if we specify a default value, it should be able to figure it out. But maybe not. So let's say this would be an integer. This one as well. these both as well, I think, yeah. This here is a bool, and then this one was a float. And this was default to this. Default window width. And here like that. ImGui debug window will say false by default, which is true. Yeah, this one here might not work out, the window height. I might have to remove window height. Let's think about that one. Okay, and then the font scale, I believe it was 1.0f. Okay. Now these here change into options.get. What's the problem? Ah yes, so now it's a variant. So maybe I should put, what should I do here? Okay. I think that should be it. So unless I messed everything up, this should, in theory, should work. Of course, I didn't do the part where we actually load the file. So let's see if we can keep that. I guess there won't really be comments anymore, so that's probably going to go. And now here, we're going to have to change this a little bit. We're going to need like the opposite of our thing where we what do we want to do here? We want to look it up by name in the map. And then based on its type, we want to do the right thing. Yeah, so it's going to change. So for each token, almost there. So if we found it, so actually, you know, I guess I could do the same kind of thing here, right? I can say auto ref and name option. Is that what I did up here? Yeah. Can I do that? That would be really cool. No, I guess I can't because it's an iterator. What I could do is, if I found the iterator, I could bind it that way. And then I can say, what do I want to say here? We want to replace. Yeah, I guess you're right. I do want to just. I guess I just want to do this with option. Yeah, Chopster wrote pretty much what I was thinking at the moment he wrote it. I just want to replace iter second, but I need to do it based on the type of the option, on the type of that second. So this option here should be a reference to the thing that we're going to modify. I'm trying to think how I want to. Okay, so actually we can kind of do the same thing here and then just replace it. Let me see. If we were to do this and instead of V I put option here just to see. In the case of an int, we want to do this here, and in the case of a float, and in the case of a bool, Now, of course, we will be evaluating each one, which kind of sucks. So it's okay, I don't care. I'm just gonna leave it like this for now. And I guess I don't really care about the name, so we can just say so that should do it. And we may get the case of an unknown option, although that's not really likely since we're generating the file, but somebody may actually go in and modify it. Yeah, that's true. So let's just say, put that back in. And we'll say, I would really like to put else ifs here. I want to know that we actually found something. Yeah, that really sucks. I guess the solution there is to use the visitor pattern. See, the thing is, one of the things people do with variant but I think stood visit isn't part of the standard yet, so we can't really visits. C++17s. How does this one work again? Yeah, it works, except if you want to be able to do it inline rather than passing it like a function object, then you need to use this little trick to declare. This is like a neat little trick there. Chopster says, won't char star comparison fail here? I don't think so. If we generate it ourselves, we write out true or false. And here, this is a stood string, so it's actually a string compare. Right? Because our tokens here actually returns basically a vector of strings. So that's pretty much what I was doing. Where was I doing that? Yeah, I was doing it over here. Previously I was comparing to 0, but it's the same kind of thing. Okay, let's just see if this works. What's this? All right. Oh, no problem, man. I don't mind the second guessing and the questions or anything. It's fine. You know, it's one of the fun things about streaming programming is that you have all these other pairs of eyes helping you. You know. So what's the problem here? Why am I in string helpers? Oh, that's interesting. I must have relied on a previous include for this to work. Okay, so it compiles. Let's see if it works. So let's step. So here we go, and we create our option. And we're going to add, oh, okay, let's just say we add a whole bunch of options. Let's see what that looks like in the debugger here. I don't know if you can see that, but so here we have a bunch. ImGui debug window, and you can see that the visualizer in Visual Studio shows us it's got a nice visualizer for variance. So here we see value false, value 1, value 800. That's pretty cool. Just to expand second here, yeah, it says int when we look at it here. That's an int as well. And let's say we take our Boolean one. Okay, no, that's the index. And then value, okay, bool void, float void, int void. So we can see the visualizer is really nice in Visual Studio for this kind of thing. So that looks good. So now let's see if we are able to read the values. So we come here and we're going to read the value for window X. And I think that's one we don't set, so we're getting the default value. Window width 600 and window height 800. Like, do I actually have any of these options? Window X was actually minus 1900, so maybe we didn't read it properly based on what we're seeing here. Oh, you know what? I forgot to actually load the options. That might help. We need after we've added our options, we need to say load options file. That kind of important. Alright, so we've added everything and we're going to step into the load options file just to see how things go. We're going to want to test the generation of the file afterwards, but for now we have one, so let's just see if this code actually works. Let's see here. Oh, did I just get like an exception or something? You know what? Let me just switch to debug because we're stepping through optimized code, which is just going to make it more annoying. Alright, so there's our line. It's a comment, which we still have. Alright, here we have some tokens. Window X minus 1900. So let's see here. It is an int, so we have a pointer to it. We're going to set it. So here our option now has minus 1900. The other two should fail. We are of course checking them for no reason, but that's okay. And when we do the next one, tokens, window width, this will be similar. So we did that one. Which one are we on now? Window height, it's another integer. We got that one. So this is the ImGui debug window. Now this one's going to fail because I did not put false in the file. I guess it's not going to fail, but yeah, it's alright. ImGui debug window, it says false. Because it's not equal to true, it happens to work in this case. But if it was 1, it would not work for us. Okay, so everything parsed. So ostensibly, these should now work. Window X minus 1900, window Y is the default value, 1024 by 1024. So looking good. We also have these two options over here. ImGui debug window should be false, and font global scale should be 1, which Where's my auto window? I returned 1, yeah. So now if we run, okay, everything looks good there. All right, so next thing that we're gonna test is we're gonna test deleting the file and seeing the one that it generates. So let's just rename this file. So we have no more options file. So we don't have one, so we say no options file. I should say generating one with default options or something, but anyway. What just happened? Oh, okay, yeah. It detected, Visual Studio detected that the file options.txt changed because we had opened it in here because we renamed it. All right, so here we come and we have name is ImGui debug window, and we have a default of false, so we're gonna toString it, and we're gonna end up doing false. So let's just go for it. Just hit F5. Sure enough, it opened on my other screen. It's got a default size and all that. And if we go take a look at the new options file, where is it? Here. And this is what it looks like. So of course, window X and window Y have these funky values in there. Probably don't want to expose that. And just like do our own thing where we put like some value like -1 or something and interpret it ourselves. But it's neat because it actually works. So like if we come here now and we say true, and here I put a position of what did I used to have actually? Window X -1900. Because I have 2 monitors, so this is my secondary monitor. So this should get us with a window opening here. Yeah. And there's a debug menu. Let me like switch out of debug because it's like super slow. And now there's our debug menu, and it's been positioned correctly. And if we continue, we say, what did I stop again? Let's see. (1024). 1024, yeah. So let's say here we say 1024 by 1024. Cool. All right, so that's pretty nice. And if I delete one of these, I mean, it should just go with whatever is default. The only thing is they won't rewrite out. So maybe we want that. Maybe we want to load and write back so that you always get back values that are missing in here. We could do that now. Thanks, Raptor. You like my glow? Without the glow, it looks like this. And I'm pretty happy with it. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's pretty good. Okay, so what I would like to do, so for one, I did want to stuff this into a similar function here, where we give it an option. Let's see here. Give it a string and we get back. We give it a string and an option and it writes to it. I'll put a little to do here. But what I want to do is I want to do the write back. So if we don't have one, we create one. If we have one, we load it. So maybe what I want to do is move this down. And then always run this code. Yeah. Yeah, kind of tackle it in a different direction. Okay, let's do it this way. And not an else. And then here we say I still want to put this error message. If we don't have this, do that. Here we do this. I'm gonna have to close this file stream in there. And what's the problem? Oh yeah. Okay, so open it. If we don't have one, do this. Else, I guess. Do all that, and then we always close it. So at this point, we want to do the opposite. We want to say always create this and spit out all the current values. So this may or may not include the values that we have loaded. Always write out options file with default/loaded values. Okay. So let's see if this works. Okay, so this is here. And see, this file I just got notified that this file got modified. Now, if we delete something and run it, that defaulted to false, so we should have no debug window. But more importantly, this will be refreshed with the value equal to false. Hey, Lisp Gamer. I didn't know you were here. Oh man, did I like totally miss your comments from earlier? Oh, so sorry about that. I just looked up in the chat and I see I missed when you wrote to me at 11. I guess I was really deep into to what I was doing, so sorry about that. But yeah, thanks for watching and have a good one. Oh, no worries. Yeah, so this is cool. Like, it means that we can, like, let's say we had changed this value, or we want to go back to default for window height and width. We can just delete them and then run, and they go back to default, and the file gets updated with the default values. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think I like that. This means if we add things or remove things or change or deprecate or rename, we can handle all of those cases because we always spit back out a valid file. The only one thing I don't like about my current solution is that I can't keep the ordering of the parameters in the way I added them because I'm using std_map, which has its own like ordering. I'd have to like enforce my own ordering in there, and that's always a pain in the ass. What we're really missing is like, you know, a vector map, like a map that's backed by a vector so that the order there would be likely, well, I guess it depends if the vector map is ordered or not. I don't know. Unordered vector map? Whatever. It's not a big deal. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with this. I think it's looking pretty good. Yeah, so there's an advantage for me moving this into a function because we can do the kind of error handling I was talking about before. What do I want to do here? I guess it'll be like from string. Whatever. And then here we can say What would it be if this failed? It would mean I guess it wouldn't make any sense, right? No, it wouldn't make any sense. So maybe just return. Yeah, the only thing I don't like about this is it would be nice if it was pass me a string and I'll return to you an option. But I need to know what's the type of the option, so oh, it's alright. And this comment thing doesn't make any more sense, right? Like if we were to try and put a comment now, this would actually disappear the next time we run. Like that. So technically not useful. In fact, even this check doesn't really make much sense. Unless somebody goes in and modifies it and doesn't do the right thing. So I guess we can keep it. Like if you do this, we don't want it to crash or anything, right? Yeah, so it's good. The last thing I was thinking is that here doesn't really need to be option type, does it? Let me just see. Not optional, sorry, variant. What am I doing? I'm getting confused here. Yeah, see, that works. And maybe I like that more. It's a bit more generic. This code isn't super specific to our type. Which ones we currently support is specific, but the fact that it's the specific variant type isn't that important. Yeah, and then there's one thing here where I think the window width thing What just happened? Is a bit annoying. That's okay. And then finally I wanted to handle this here. Special case for window Y and window X. So instead of putting STL windowed position centered, we'll put something else and then we'll handle. So we'll put like -1. Whoops. It's like a sentinel value that will mean position it wherever you want. And then when we read it, we'll say yeah, not super cool, but it'll get the job done. So I'm using here an immediately invoked lambda because I want to still be able to initialize my const here. So I capture what I want. I don't need any parameters. I get my value, and if it's -1, I return what I really want. Otherwise, I return the value that was there, and then I immediately invoke it. So this is like a little trick to be able to do a bit more code, but still initialize your constant. So now I'm going to need to delete this line. And there's our -1. So if I was to put -1 here, then you won't see it, but it should appear on this screen here, which it does. But I can go back to -1900 here. So I think that's better because, exposing the real value of STL Windows centered position wasn't a good idea. So I think this should be good. I guess I could, if I really care there, I could kind of build in the notion of, you know, I have a get, or I could do like get, you know, I can do like kind of like the get if it's not, if it is a default value, I would like you to return this one instead, you know? So like get or kind of thing. And then we'd store what was the default value that you added up here. And if it's equal to that, return the or value. And it'll sort of be similar to the how optional works. Value or, you know? So if we got a value that's not default, then return it to us. And then that would get rid of this kind of ugliness here. Like it would basically look something like this. Get. Yeah, maybe it would be nice if it was actually called get value or. And we'd say would that make sense? So we get the value if it was set, or we get this one if it's the default. I don't know. Now I'll keep it like this for now. And in any case, it's midnight, so I want to stop. I think I can check this in as is, and we should be good. So I had said that I didn't want to do something generic, but in the end, I totally ended up doing something generic. But I think it was kind of interesting. Anyways, I hope you guys found it interesting. Pretty happy with this. This is more friendly for users who are going to run the emulator for the first time and maybe want to mess around in the options file. Eventually, I'll probably want to have an actual UI to play around with the options file, but for now, this is definitely better than what I had before. All right, so let's say effectively what we've changed is to spit out the text file if none to always yeah. Isn't it fun watching people come up with commit messages? User or default values. Okay, that's good. And I'm going to push this. Yes, I pretty much do the same thing. Well, actually, the way I do it is I follow the kind of like, if this was a task on my task list, this would be what the task says, you know? Although sometimes I see here I broke it with wrapped. I usually don't do that. Like, this is kind of an exception, but using, you know, it'll usually be in the active voice, like remove this, disable this, add this, use that, you know? I made a mistake on the wrapped one. Typically I would have said wrap ImGui calls. So to me it's more like my task list in the active voice, and it's like this is the thing that I was gonna do, and that's the commit message. And you can see it's pretty much like that everywhere else. But it's kind of similar to the one you're saying. You're saying this commit will, you know, this commit will move option into its own header CPP. This commit will remove libpng and replace with STB image. So I think it's around the same thing. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to rewrite history just to change this one. How much do I have to go up? Like 3 or something? Why is this working? Oh, it's not hat, it's this. No, that'll work. See here, I'll say reword, and I'll pick the next two. Wrap ImGui calls in Banana to conditionally invoke calls as well as group them. So we do that, we save, rebase. Yeah, I read a few pages that talked about like how the Linux kernel team words their commit messages, and they're a bit more strict, right? They have like, I think is it's 80 character length for the first line or something. I'm not super strict like that. Like I have some longer ones, but I like the idea of like the first line is written in the active tense. It is like the thing that you are doing, as you know, similar to what you wrote, and then you want to have an extra space, and then you could write like more details. So I pretty much follow that same standard. Okay, and I'm gonna rewrite history on my server because nobody is, unless anyone here has gone in and synced in between, or you know, pulled my changes in between, but I don't think so. And if you have, well, too bad. Oh, rebasing. Yeah, rebasing is super powerful, and it's basically a method to rewrite history. So, which is what I just did, right? So rebasing, I mean, it's useful in a few different contexts. The idea behind it is to say, I want to take a branch and I want to take all the changes Yeah. I want to take all the changes that have happened. You know, let's say you can actually give a range, but you know, typically you'll rebase. Like I said, I want to rebase master over, and I gave it like from master, I said go up 3, right? So I wanted to rebase it over this one here. And what that basically means is all the changes from here to master. So the one, this delta here, like think of each commit as a patch, right? So it's like take the patch from here to here, and the patch from here to here, and the patch from here to here. So those are like 3 patches. 1, 2, 3, yeah. And I want you to take them and reapply them. Now, if I had not said interactive, it would literally have just produced exactly the same thing, because I was just saying rebase this branch and these patches on top of exactly the same thing. Normally what you want to do is something a bit more interesting. Like, let's say I took this branch here, right? If I check this branch out and I say rebase it onto master, it's going to take, it's going to look for the common ancestor, which is over here, right? So there's only one in this case. And it's going to say take this patch and reapply it on top of master. And that commit that it creates, move this branch pointer to that commit. Like, you know, repoint to that new commit. And that's effectively what rebasing is. And it's in the word as well. We're saying this guy is currently based off this commit, and we want to change its base over here. We want to rebase it on top of another commit. What I did was similar, except I'm saying rebase it on top of the same commit that you're already based on, but I added this flag, which is interactive. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to open this recipe for what each commit would do. So that's a bit more advanced there, the interactive rebasing. Like if we bring it up again, git rebase interactive. You'll see what this does. The dash I is the interactive part. So it opens this thing, this kind of like a recipe, right? And it's saying, okay, you asked me to rebase from master up 3. And it's saying, so 1, 2, 3, right? And it's saying in this case, there were 3 commits. There was this wrap ImGui calls, which you'll see over here, followed by move options, followed by modify options, right? And what it's saying is, by default, if you don't do anything and you just close it, it'll follow the recipe and pick these in that order. So it'll just pick this one as is, pick this one as is, pick, and as it says pick, just says use the commit. Don't do anything with it. But you can actually say, well, I want you to actually stop here for rewording, which is what I had done, you know, or I want you to stop here so I can edit this commit, or I want you to, you know, you can even just delete one. You can delete this line, or even reorder them. You can totally like just swap these lines. And what happens is that when you save this recipe and close it, Git will just, you know, follow the recipe and do what you've asked. So it'll effectively rewrite history. You know, so as an example, let's say we just reorder these like that, right? And I save this. And in this case, it did not work. Why not? Could not apply. Oh yeah, it's true, I can't do this. There is some limitations to reordering. You cannot reorder, I think, the first or the last one or something like that. So maybe that's not a good example. Or I would need to take like a few more and just take some middle ones. But another thing I could do is I could just, I think, delete one altogether. Like, in fact, drop is what you want to do here. Let's say, oh, man, that's not going to work because actually I need that one. See, wrap ImGui. Let's say we drop the ImGui one, right? And pick the other 2. Let's see if that works. Why not? I don't know, maybe I'm asking for it to do something too complicated here, I don't know. It's not something I typically do, is drop commits. But the point is, when it works, you're effectively rewriting history. I'd like to show you, like I did it before, but let's just do a simple rewording again. So I'll say R for the second one. So what you'll see is that it's going to start, it's going to pick the first one, stop at the second, at 2 of 3, and say, here you go, you can go and reword this. And I'll say, this is a rewording. And then it continues rebasing and finishes the recipe. And when it's done, there we go. It says successfully rebased and updated master. So now if you come see here, origin master, which is the one I pushed earlier, is still there, but see master no longer points to the same commit. We have now this 2 commits just like here, except this one has a different commit message. And the thing to know about Git, you may already know this, right? But Git, right, it produces this commit hash, and the hash is basically a hash of all these parts, right? It hashes pretty much all the information in the commit here. So the author, the date, the commit date, which parents and children, which parents, sorry, you have is part of what gets hashed. And of course, all the contents, so the tree and all the files and everything. So all of that is hashed. And so basically when you rebase, just by changing this commit message, it means that I no longer have the same hash as before. So like this one here has a hash of 3E03, let's say, whereas the similar commit that I had before has a totally different hash. And since this hash has changed, and since it also hashes parent hashes, then that means that the children commits have a different hash. So this one has 2223, whereas this one here has 1705. So rebasing, when we say it rewrites history, that's what we mean. It basically rewrites all the hashes of all the commits. So these are completely separate commits as far as Git is concerned. They're completely unrelated. You know, we know that these are similar to these, but Git doesn't know and doesn't care. As far as it's concerned, these are completely separate commits with different hashes. So yeah, this is the power of rebase. Rebase basically allows you to rewrite history, and that can be really fun and cool for the kind of thing I did before, which is like, oh, I made a mistake here, I'll fix that. But of course, you have to be careful, because if you've pushed your branch and other people have it, and you rewrite history, the next time they get your changes, like they pull, they're going to be in this weird state where they have a branch pointing onto to commits that have been effectively abandoned because you've rewritten history. And so that can be very confusing. So it's the kind of thing you definitely don't want to do, like force push a rewritten history if other people depend on it, or you have to coordinate with them. So hopefully that explains it. Oh, you're welcome. So now I'm just going to reset my branch here and ignore these commits here. So just bring it back to how I had it before. So yeah, I think that's it for tonight. I'm past at the time I usually want to stop. So thanks for watching, guys, and I should be back next week on Monday. So hopefully I'll see you then. Take care.